June is almost here. Water temps are back up into the 60s. I found a giant school of fish. We're in about 7 to 10 feet of water, kind of a hard bottom area. There's some gravel, there's some sand, there's scattered weeds, but it's mostly hard bottom. And I was seeing all these fish, all these shadows on side imaging, casting baits at them, and I'm starting to think, are these suckers? They just wouldn't react to the baits. And turns out it's because they didn't want to feed down. They wanted to feed up. And I started out throwing good old trusty Ned rig, stuff like that. And a lot of the times those fish will chase it down and eat it right off bottom. And they just weren't moving at all, to the point where I'm like, these must be suckers. Threw a jerkbait through there. This is a Mavrik 110. It runs about 4 to 6 feet deep. And what do you know? Get cracked. And it's like, well, there was at least one walleye in that school of suckers. No, they're walleyes. They're just being picky with what they want to eat. And this is actually a bite that I've noticed this up bite and down bite thing numerous times. I don't know that I've really talked about it a lot in a video, but there are some days, there are some spots even, it can be the same day where those fish want to chase down, they want to go down, or you're almost better off letting your bait. You could be throwing a jig and a shiner, you could be throwing a Ned rig, it doesn't matter. And you're trying to get them to come up like normal and they won't eat, but you let it crash down to bottom and they chase it down, pin it to bottom and eat. And today, or this particular spot, is exact opposite. They will not move down. And when that jerkbait's coming across the tops of their heads, they are pouncing up and demolishing it. I had all these thoughts about how I was gonna catch them today. Jerkbait wasn't on my mind, but man, am I glad I busted it out. Gotta start somewhere. Just had to switch to the deep to be able to get down to them. I didn't quite want to come up for the regular one 4 or 5 feet down. Slow down. Big. This is another one that came when I'm working in jerkbait way differently than I would normally work it. Normally, I'm slashing it, I'm ripping it, I'm jerking it. And they are just not wanting that today. Slowing down to tiny little pops, and then that's what's making them commit, which is so crazy. Where that bait is just kind of almost in place and little side to side and stalling, and then they whack it. And I don't know about you, but when I think about jerkbait walleyes, usually I'm doing the big snaps, the big rips, and working pauses in, but I'm doing big snaps and just changing up how fast or how long the pause is in between. And today, the only way I can get bit with the jerkbait is doing the tiny little 1 foot, 6 inch pops, so that bait is barely moving and almost just working in place, which is super weird because it's sunny, it's nice, there's a little bit of wind, and you'd think they would want that thing shooting past them. I mean, water temps have jumped back up into the 60s again. These fish should be aggressive, but slowing down, getting bit. There we go. Same thing, little snaps. right in the side of the face here. Same old the original Mavrik. It runs like 4-ish feet, 5-ish feet. You can get it down to 8 on a really long cast and you work it down. But it's kind of perfect in this. You know, I'm fishing like 7 to 9 foot stuff, and those fish have, wow, what's scary with a jerkbait, especially with red lines. Whew. Those fish have no problem coming up 4 feet to hit a jerkbait under the right conditions. So I will switch to the deep once I get more in that like 10 foot to 14 foot stuff. If they're not willing to come up, I'll switch to the deep, and that thing, I mean, it gets down super fast. It gets down to 10 feet instantly. So I always start on the other side, go with the shallower one, and see if those fish are willing to come up and chase. And in clear water, if you got a little bit of wind, usually they got no problem closing that gap and coming up. Oh, that one just crushed it. Oh, right on the paws. Man, when they're eating a jerkbait, it is one of the funnest bites. I'm guilty of not throwing it enough, because if I don't get bit on like the first 5 casts, it's a lot of work. I usually grab something else. I should net this one maybe. But if I get hit right away, then I'm usually a little better about sticking with it. And then I'll chuck it all day. Man, that one whacked it. That one's got a really pretty gold color to it. Come on. Just demolished it on the paws where you can feel the whack even on a slack line. This right here is just one of my go-to colors in it, one that I almost always start with in clear water. It's metallic yellow perch. It doesn't always have to look like a perch. It also does a great job of looking like a shiner. It's got that kind of milky white belly and then a little bit of chrome strip in there. It's just a great all-around color in clear water, especially when there's some sun. I like having those chromes out, but it can look like a perch, it can look like a shiner. It just looks edible. Now, days where it's a little more overcast, a little cloudier, that's when I'll switch to a color like, say, hot perch, or what else we got, that emerald green one. Some of those more muted, not as chromy and flashy colors, but when you got a little sun in the clear water, they just seem to like that flash. But you gotta switch it up and see, because it's one of those things where it can change hour by hour, where they want the chrome, they want the gaudy, they want the flash. But then all of a sudden they stop biting and you put on one of those more muted colors, those toned down ones, and then you start getting bit again. But this one, if I was gonna choose one, is what I always start with. That was cool. Given up on the cast. I have so many fish when you're jerkbait fishing, I just Bill Dance that. They will follow that thing and then commit when you're getting close to the boat that it is one of the few things that I fish all the way back. This is a huge fish. I gotta grab the net. This is a grown one. Oh, such pretty colors in the clear water. Look at that tank. Oh. light's all wrong now, but that is why you rip a jerkbait around for these shallow clear water fish. Yeah, I just stuck myself. That's the downfall of the VMC redline hooks. They are so freaking sticky. It's like you get near it and I swear they just grab your skin. But it's the same thing with walleye skin. Oh, jeez. It's the same thing with walleye skin. They're just so sticky, so sharp. They're thinner diameter hooks are gauged too, so like you don't have to do the big giant bass hook set. Like, I mean, their penetration is just crazy, just right through. But hot dang, are they sticky. You got 3 of them on there. Like, if a walleye takes a swipe at that thing, it's gonna have a tough time missing any of those hooks. It's so fun. So there's a zillion different routes you could go with a rod for a jerkbait, and to be honest, how I'm fishing it and where I'm fishing it, I switch up my rod all the time because it depends if you're around weeds, if you're throwing a deeper diving jerkbait, a shallower one, if you're really snapping it, or if it's subtle twitches. Today, there's no weeds around here. This is a hard bottom area, and they don't want the big snaps. They want little pops, fishing it a lot slower, even though the water's hot, and I thought those fish would be hot to trot. So I'm using a 7'6" medium light fast. It's a Fenwick Elite 7.6. I know a lot of people want to use shorter jerkbait rods, and their whole point for that is they've got the rod tip down and they're snapping and they don't want it slapping on the water surface. For me, I want a longer rod so that I can make longer casts. We have super clear water with zebra mussels around here, fussy walleyes. Having a 7'6" rod, I know I can cast farther, and I want to be able to get that bait out 80, 90 feet from the boat so I can get it down to depth by the time it gets to those fish. And a medium light is a very soft jerkbait rod. But what's nice is you need a little bit of a soft tip to be able to sling those baits. If it's too stiff, you're not going to be able to cast as far. You do need some backbone, but you really need a good shock absorber because I'm running braided line and you don't want to be tearing hooks out when you get them hooked up. But with this 7.6 medium light today and the way that they're wanting those real kind of subtle pops where that bait is almost just going like this in place and then pauses nose down, and that's when they're smacking it. Having that softer tip, that mushier tip, is just awesome for that. And I'm just trying to get that bait down to depth. If it hits the water and I instantly start snapping it, it's going to take a lot longer for it to get down. If I do a few cranks, a couple pumps, I know instantly that thing's down in 4, 5, 6 feet of water and I'm fishing. If you go even a little bit longer, you can get it down to 8, 9, even though it says 5, 6. I can easily hit 8, 9 with this if need be, but getting it down to depth, and then I slow down and I start doing my snapping cadence, my jerking cadence, my jigging cadence, whatever you want to call it, for what and how they want it that day. But get that bait down to depth first. There's a zillion different ways to fish a jerkbait, and it's one of those things that you have to play around with because it's different every single day. It can be different hour by hour. Like you saw earlier, normally I'm snapping that thing pretty aggressively once we got warmer water like this, and they just did not want anything to do with that today, which honestly blew my mind. It was when I slowed down to just tiny little pops, working that bait slow, letting it sit there, and they would just demolish it. And it's really, this is how I would normally work it in way colder water that's 20 degrees colder than this. So it's case by case, it's day by day. It's just like anything else, snapping plastics, jigging wraps. Someday they want the double pump. Some days it's just little 1 foot pops. So switching up that cadence, and once you get that first fish in the boat, you have to remember what you were doing when you got hit. Was it in the middle of a double snap? Was it a pause? Was it a long pause? Was it when you were just kind of steadily reeling it and killed it? All those little clues and cues. If you catch a couple fish and it's like, oh yeah, you know what, that one bit on the pause. Hey, that other one bit after I snapped it twice and then stopped and killed it. And duplicate that, because it's definitely the deal. They want it one way or another. I mean, if it's a day where they're just going psycho and crushing it, it doesn't really matter. Then you just constantly switch up your retrieve. You work it fast, you snap it, kill it, go slower. Just constantly mixing it up, and you're getting bites doing a little bit of everything. Then just do you. But the days where it's tougher and they want it a specific way, you gotta pay attention to when you're getting your eats. I am a braid guy when it comes to jerk baits. Some people like mono or fluoro. I want braid because I want that bait to do everything that I am doing. It's so much easier to work that bait exactly how you want to with braid, because I know then if I'm doing a sharp snap, I'm getting a real quick darting action on the days where they want it super fast, super aggressive. So I'm running an 8-pound braid here. I do run a stiffer fluorocarbon leader, 4 foot to 6 foot, but I bump up my line size to usually about a 12, sometimes 14, just because you foul less. You got a lot of pike that come in. If you get it down by bottom, there's rocks and zebra mussels. You definitely don't have to go finesse with your fluorocarbon leader on this. I'm using a size 30 Pflueger Patriarch. Bigger reel, has a bigger spool, holds more line. I can cast way farther. It's got super smooth drag. It's just the perfect matchup with these jerk baits, and being able to toss far is so important, because a lot of the times you're fishing shallow water, and where I'm at, it's clear water, so I need to be able to bomb those out. And I'm telling you, if you're used to buying size 20 reels, when you go up to a 30, you're gonna get an extra 30 feet or more on the end of your cast, just by having that bigger diameter and less resistance for that line to flow off of there. One thing you got to pay attention to when jerkbait fishing is what that fish's ceiling is that day. It's sort of like ice fishing. You want to see how far you can work them up in the column to get them to bite, and once you get too high, they just won't come up to it. Well, with jerkbaits, you're not fishing them near bottom a lot of the times. You're going for those suspended fish, or you're making them come up to eat it. So like today, the sweet spot has been in 7 to 10 feet of water. This bait's running 4, 5, 6 feet of water, and those fish are loving coming up 3, 4, 5 feet to eat that bait. Some days they don't want to close that gap. Some days they'll come up 10 feet. It is nothing for a walleye to come shooting up 10 feet to eat a jerkbait when conditions are right. That's when I'll throw them over cabbage flats. You'll see fish come flying up out of the weeds, and it might be 15, 16 feet of water, and your bait's only 5, 6 feet down, and the tops of the weeds are, say, 10, 11, but those fish are used to coming out and chasing bait. You know, they're not used to live shiners, live perch swimming right up, right in front of their face and letting them eat them. Like, they're used to going out and getting their meal. So there are times where I will bust out the Mavrik Deep, the deeper version. That thing is a super deep diving jerkbait. It's like 10, 12 feet, but it gets there so fast. It has a giant bill. And that's when I'm seeing fish more in that, like, it's say 14 to 18 foot range, and they're a couple feet off bottom. But you try to throw that thing up here in 8, 9, 10, and it is all the way down to bottom in about the first 20 feet of you reeling. It's crazy. And honestly, there are days where that's the deal, because there's so many times when you're fishing a jerkbait and you're like, I wish I could just get this a little deeper. You're seeing fish and they're 4, 5, 6 feet below your bait, and they'll kind of posture up but not come all the way up, and they'll go back down. That's when I bust out that deeper version and get it a little bit closer to in their faces, but still a couple feet above them. But right now we have been crushing it with the original Mavrik 110. It is that sweet spot where those fish are feeding up, they're looking up, and this thing's just a couple feet above their heads, flashing around and looking like it's trying to flee out of there. Another one on. And that right there is why you throw a jerkbait. What a fish and what a fun bite. We're gonna get this guy back. We don't keep these big girls. Oh, it's beautiful. Dude, and that was awesome. It even waved goodbye. I know pinging minnows is all the rage right now, and little finessey live baits and night crawlers, but man, there's a time and a place for hard baits, reaction bites, and I'm glad I wasn't too stubborn to throw the jerkbait today. So thank you for taking time out of your day to watch these videos and leave a comment. Stay tuned, hit that subscribe button because we got a lot more on the water content coming up soon. Thank you.